Shavua Tov, everybody. Shalom. Welcome to a new week with the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land, where I bring you those top stories from Israel every Monday to Thursday. And if we haven't met before, my name is Rolene Marks. And just a reminder, if you are looking for the Israel Brief or Lay of the Land online, you can find us online at our website at www.layoftheland.online. Read our reportage covering the Middle East, global jury, and just general issues of interest right then. If you want to write for us, please make sure to contact us via our website. We are also on Facebook. Our community is called at Lartle's site. Please give us a like or a follow and share us with your friends. If you are viewing this on YouTube on our channel at the Israel Brief, please consider giving us a like or a share and hit that red subscribe button. It really helps get Israel's news out to the world when you do. And we're on Twitter at Lay of the Land 5. But let's take a look at those top stories, and I really wish we didn't have to start the week off with news of yet another terror attack, this time in the northern city of Hadera. So let's unpack what happened last night. Two gunmen believed to be Arab Israelis from the city of al-Fahim in the Wadi Ara area of the north opened fire in a densely populated area, killing two border guards, Shirel Abu Karat and Yezen Falahi. A Druze border guard were killed. Two other people were injured and are in hospital at this time, and border guards managed to neutralize the two terrorists. Now, this is the second terror attack in a matter of days, and the terrorists are believed to have been ISIS sympathizers. And what is worrying is that the same as the attack in Beersheba last week, that it is coming internally in Israel by extremists who sympathize with ISIS. After the event happened, we had condemnations not just from the UK Foreign Secretary and Ambassador to Israel, also the Australian Ambassador to Israel, but also from the regional foreign ministers who are in the country attending a summit. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. The ministers are from Morocco, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Egypt, all roundly condemned last night's terror attack. Now, the motive given for this attack was that the supporters, the ISIS supporters, wanted to derail what is now being called the Negev Summit. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But thankfully, they weren't able to do that. However, they claimed the lives of two of our finest, and they were both just 19 years old. The police department lauded the bravery of Shirel Abu Karat, an immigrant from France who lived in Netanya, and Druze officer Yezen Falahi, 19 years old, with their whole lives ahead of them, their whole future before them. And now there are two families that will never recover from this, and our thoughts and our prayers are with them. Meanwhile, Israel's police are concerned at the presence of ISIS in our country. They believe that dozens of Arab Israelis might be sympathetic to ISIS and now have started a manhunt and might detain anybody suspected of being ISIS sympathizers. And following the recent spate of terror attacks, and as we approach Ramadan and Pesach in the next couple of weeks, police presence will be increased around the country. While this was happening, a historic event was taking place in State Blinken in the Negev. In the original place of Abraham, he who came into the Negev desert, were the partners in the Abraham Accords joined by Egypt. For the first time, hosted by Israel, a summit featuring the foreign ministers of Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Morocco, Egypt, and joined by Secretary of State Anthony Blinken from the United States. This forum gathered together to discuss, amongst other things, regional cooperation, and it is believed that we will have a joint regional power base to help deal with some of those threats. Also up for discussion, of course, was the threat posed by Iran. All of us feel the threat posed by the Iranians as they inch further and further towards nuclear weapons. Up for discussion as well was the situation with the Palestinians, and in a joint statement issued after the end of the summit, this was addressed. So what was said then? We know that our Foreign Minister Yair Lapid opened up the statements by saying that he welcomes his counterparts to the ancient place where the original Abraham of the Abraham Accords first ventured into the desert. He also extended a hand to the Palestinians, saying that not only will this forum become a permanent operation, but that the Palestinians and anyone in the region who is open to peace will be welcome to participate. He was followed by the other foreign ministers who all expressed their happiness to be in Israel, their commitment to forging peace and growing peace between our countries, but also their support of a two-state solution. Each foreign minister alluded to that and also again condemned the deadly terrorist attack that took place in Hadera last night. And rounding up the statements was Crown Prince Mohammed Al Zayed, who is the chief diplomat from the United Arab Emirates, and his words were truly inspiring. He said that, he has seen for himself that the curiosity and the visits from Israelis to the United Arab Emirates has really spoken to him about the commitment to peace. And he said something very, very important, especially for our region, and that is that working together not only increases relations between peoples and grows our businesses and our economies, but puts the death peg in decades of incitement of hate. So a new dawn is truly breaking across the Middle East, and we couldn't be more proud. In fact, today was the first time that foreign ministers from Morocco and the United Arab Emirates had been in Israel, and what a pleasure to host them. Tomorrow there will be an event taking place at the Dubai Expo, the Expo 2020. A World Legends football team will square off against the Abraham Accords football or soccer team, depending on what side of the Atlantic you are. I know which team I will be supporting, and we are thrilled that such positive events are taking place. Now, before participating in the Negev Summit, Secretary of State Blinken, who arrived on Saturday, took the opportunity not only to meet with Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority president in Ramallah, but also with Israeli leaders. So let's take a look at some of the things that were discussed. He met firstly with his Israeli counterpart, Foreign Minister Yair Lapid. He did a virtual tour of our field hospital in Ukraine. We are so extremely proud of this hospital, the only one of its kind in Ukraine that has really started to treat an extraordinary amount of patients, mostly refugees who are moving towards the borders. The two foreign secretaries also discussed the threat posed by Iran. Meanwhile, in his meeting with Prime Minister Bennett, who has tested positive for COVID, we wish you well, Mr. Prime Minister. The subject of the Americans debating whether or not to remove the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps from their terror list was discussed. Secretary of State Blinken reiterated that no matter what, Israel can count on America for support against the Iranians. The Secretary of State also met with President Herzog and then went on to meet with Defense Minister Benny Gantz. Up for discussion in that meeting, again, was the Iranian nuclear threat and possible nuclear treaty. And the Defense Minister thanked him for making sure that funding for our Iron Dome systems go through. Meanwhile, the Secretary of State also put forward what he sees as his point plan for the Palestinians to improve not only the situation on the ground for them as well, and how America is going to invest in that, but also to improve relations between Palestinians and the Biden administration. And our final story stays in the United States, this time with the state of Iowa, who becomes the latest state to enact their anti-BDS laws by making sure that in the Senate, by 40-5, a clause was passed that Iowa will not allow any of its state businesses to invest funds, pension funds, in any company that boycotts the state of Israel. It is believed this is aimed specifically at Unilever, the holding company of Ben & Jerry's, who announced last year that they will not be allowing their ice cream to be sold in what they are calling the disputed territories, and will be suspending their license with the Israeli manufacturer come the end of the year. Now, he is taking them to court. He says this violates the Israeli non-discriminatory laws and non-boycott laws, and is actually more detrimental to Palestinians and to peace than it is to Israelis. And if you don't subscribe to the journalist Barry Weiss's Substack, she's featured an article written by him there. Please go ahead and read it. So Iowa becomes the latest state, joining Florida, Texas, New Jersey, New York, and a whole host of others in pulling millions of dollars of pension fund out of Unilever. Proof that boycotts, divestments, and sanctions do not pay. So that's it from me for today. A big news brief to open up our week. But don't forget to join me again tomorrow. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief. Thank you for watching. I'll be here with your headlines tomorrow.